again, welcome to another edition of CropLife Retail Week. Paul Schrimpf here with Eric Sfiligoj, who is the bearer of lots of good news. I know you want to immediately hit the highlights for everyone out there.
Well, not the highlights again, Paul. I know we've been talking the last couple of weeks about some of the historic flooding going on in the Midwest. And Paul, we've got some numbers, I guess, some based on the statistics, we got about $12.5 billion in damages across states like Missouri and Nebraska and South Dakota because of the flooding. And basically people are saying that's on par with some of the more significant hurricanes we've seen in the U.S. over the past 5 years. In terms of farmland, looks like at least 1 million acres is underwater or was underwater, and about 1 million private wells have been contaminated as well. So obviously, if folks can get stuff into the ground once it dries out, they may have to be using water from other sources rather than well water, because they won't be able to use it.
Yeah, by the time we finish, or by the time this is viewed, the snowstorm that we're talking about right now is going to be passing through, and it's just.
Glad you mentioned that, Paul. Yeah, 200 million people are in the path of this new snowstorm that's going to be hitting states like Nebraska and South Dakota and big cities like Minneapolis and Fargo. And it sounds like it's going to be, rather than a powdery snow because it's spring and the temperatures are a little warmer, it's going to be very wet, hard to move, hard to plow. And of course, then that's going to saturate ground that's already saturated even more so.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, there's just nothing much more to say about that than it's just tough times out. They're just going to have to endure this.
The only other thing to mention is that there's been some models from the government projecting forward, and they're saying that it looks like some of this moderate flooding will continue to take place in these states all the way through the end of July, Paul. So it doesn't look like there's going to be a big drying event, and we're going to have to see come the beginning of June just how much crop did go into the ground.
Yeah, and crop is going in. I mean,
it is.
Our way, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana seems to be getting some crop in, and conditions seem pretty good in some places. So, it's usually a tale of 2 or 3 different regions when it comes to the Corn Belt.
Yeah, and as always, spring, there's almost always a weather event someplace in the country. It just seems like the same part of the country keeps getting hit over and over and over, and that, of course, is never good.
So, many more good news from you. You're quite finished, sir.
Well, the only other thing to mention is I did find an item talking about farm bankruptcies, and they basically said that in 2018 there were 474 Chapter 12 filings, which I guess are the bankruptcies you file if you're a farmer in financial difficulty. That was up from 458 in 2017. Now, through 2019 so far, we have had 110 filings. That's through the end of March, and that is compared to 100 during the same time the prior year. And Paul, the corn and dairy operations are doing the most of these filings at 16% apiece, and 15% were from soybean operators. So, it's still tough times out there.
Very tough times. So
that's all the happy news I have.
So, with that, I'll talk about something totally relevant then, which is drones.
Yes.
So I'm going to actually be at the AUVSI conference, which is in Chicago in a couple of weeks.
What's that stand for? Do you happen?
Oh, don't ask me. Unmanned. It's unmanned vehicles of all kinds, in every industry. So it's really
we'll put up on the screen what the actual name is if anyone's interested.
Really
looking.
Bad. I guess I always mess it up because it's not quite logical the way it comes out. But it's designed to cover everything. So you're talking about ground, aerial, all vehicles, all unmanned vehicles of all sorts. So we're starting to see a few releases kind of dribbling out from the rest, even from the ag sector. I mean, most of these, again, technologies cover security and inspections and surveying and lots of other things that the drones cover. But we're getting requests to talk to folks. I know we just got a release from Teravion that they're going to be they're have a data exchange with the EFC systems on the ag side. Just with that conference being what it is, hopefully we'll see some interesting announcements in the next couple of weeks from drone companies. We're really working hard to try to find ways to make, and Matt Grassi actually wrote a piece, an opening to a piece was talking about the 5 stages of acceptance and technology, and I like that. I think there were some corollaries to the stages of acceptance and a tragedy, but I think we are getting to that point where we're figuring out how to use some of these technologies and not just kind of throwing them in the dustbin and saying that they're not worth anything. They're certainly worth something, and the companies are trying hard to figure out ways to make these things practical and apply to ag tasks that we need done. So I'm looking forward to finding out a little bit more about what folks have going on.
And when will you be there, Paul?
Conference. That'll be May 29th. So we've got a couple of, or not May 29th, April 29th.
April 29th. I was going to say, you're really giving us a preview. Okay, yeah.
It's going to be the 1st of May when I come back. So that's what got me thrown off.
So you're for attending this event that Paul isn't sure the name of exactly what it stands for.
I don't know what is happening.
Be sure to look him up.
But I'll be there.
Be sure to look him up and let him know what you think of his lack of knowing what the show's actually called, among other things.
Thanks.
Sorry.
I feel the bus tires over my back as usual. Another edition of this thing we call Retail Week.
Okay.
All right, so that's it for this week. We will see them next week.
Yes, we'll be here.
I'm
around.
We're both here. All right,
we're
both here, and we will see you next week. If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below.
Your feedback is important to us. We'll try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode.
And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.